So hello everyone, I welcome you to today's Risk Summit. I will guide you through this day. A few words about myself. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Solidity Network, a startup which was co-founded beginning of last year together with Benedikt Eichmanns in Munich, Germany. And since then we had a rough journey and finally we arrived here in Istanbul to launch our product. Before I start, just want to give a short announcement that we are changing our name from Solidity to Alterscope, and the main reason is actually realized when we are going to conferences with Solid, you are always below on these banners, and we wanted to improve on this side, and we hope now with Alterscope we are going to be the first row that everyone will see Alterscope as a brand. So, few words about what we are doing. I believe, just a second. I believe like most of us are here in this room exactly because of those kind of events. If we just look at the last 18 months, when we look at Terra Luna crash, 3 Arrow Capital crash, BlockFi, followed by FTX 6 months later, almost a USDC DPEC happening event beginning of this year. Then we had few major hacks, like for example the Euler hack, Curve hack, and so on. And the question is like, what's going on with this space? Why are these events constantly happening? Even more interestingly, like, are we ever going to go mainstream if we have those kind of events? And it's not that there are no companies in the space who are addressing these kind of problems. There are actually very smart people, some of them here in this room, who are addressing this problem, yet the problem is so big and so complex that we are still not able to solve it in the right way. We at Solidity, we at Alterscope, not promising to bring a solution for everything, but we hope that we can help on this problem discovery. And to explain why this problem is such a big case and very hard to understand and very hard to solve, I just have a simple example here. I believe like most of you are crypto natives here, and you know these stablecoin related strategies from the last bull run where you see 2 lending protocols or 2 liquidity pools, you see the interest rate there, and you deploy your capital and you earn your yield on top of that. Now the question is like, how did the majority decide so far? How was this actually working the last bull run? In this case, we have Aave and Compound. One liquidity pool provides 7% yield, the other one 8%. And what did the majority do? They, of course, went to Compound. I hope you can agree with me, this is not really the smartest idea to deploy your capital. A better way would be actually to take the risks in account, to create a risk-adjusted perspective, to see then in this risk-adjusted view what the returns are on Aave, what are the returns on Compound, and deploy your capital in accordance. Now the question is like, okay, but what are the risks behind Aave and what are the risks behind of Compound? And this is actually where the complexity starts. When we look at DeFi, DeFi is nothing else than a composability of various primitives which are interconnected but interdependent. That means when we take Aave, Aave is sitting on a L1 chain, like for example Ethereum. In between there is, for example, Arbitrum because of scaling reasons. In these liquidity pools which are runs, there are stable coins like DAO, DAI, USDC, USDT, and so on. We have even more elements like, for example, oracles, which are needed for the proper working of lending protocols. We have yield aggregators, yield optimizers. They are taking this liquidity and moving it around to see where the biggest opportunities, basically running arbitrage. And actually it's getting even more complicated because there are these bridges and we have these cross-chain strategies where someone sees opportunities from Ethereum ecosystem in, for example, Avalanche ecosystem, and moving liquidity all around. And then we have the same story actually in the other ecosystem. We have, for example, Avalanche, then the subnets, then there is a DeFi protocol, stablecoins there, yield aggregators, and so on. And the problem here is actually because everything is interconnected and all these elements are operating a dynamic environment, all of them have their underlying risks. When we just take the chain, it starts with the governance, we have the validators, we have a consensus mechanism. There is this consensus mechanism is different from, for example, Polkadot to Ethereum. Then we move to the L2s, we have the sequencer, the prover, we have another governance structure in place. Then protocols, smart contract issues, but not only that, when we took, for example, lending protocols, we have liquidation events, bad debt situations, we have liquidity pools on DEXs where you get inside, you are actually not sure you are able to get outside. These oracles with their data feeds, many attacking hacks happen through them actually. And then on top of that, we have these aggregators, optimizers who are concentrating the liquidity and bringing additional security issues to the space. And the bridges are making actually the whole thing more complex, and I can even say like worse, because we have the finality of one chain, the finality of the other chain, and basically the bridge always chooses the worst one. Now the question is, okay, but we know this risk, what does it mean? So the problem is here not only that we have this risk, it's also the interconnectedness. Very simple case, like if compound would break, something happens there, some kind of security issue, we will have immediately a liquidation wave happening from the compound side. This will lead to a cascading effect, and this cascading effect will lead to a liquidation event on Aave, which was actually a proper working protocol until then. Then we have a huge liquidation event happening on Aave. From Aave, it's moving to another protocol, and we are very fast in a systemic event. So basically, it starts with one protocol, but in the end, the whole ecosystem is affected, especially we are talking with the blue chips. And just recent cases like the FTX crash, Terra Luna magnified or showcased us that in a very, very good manner. Now the question is actually how to deal with that and how to understand these risks. And this was actually the starting point from Benedict and me back then when we were looking into DeFi. We realized actually what happened with crypto, that counterparty risk, what we know from traditional finance space, was just replaced with these technical fundamentals. And when we look into the space, we realize basically there are no real or advanced tooling to address these technical fundamental risks in a broader approach where you take all this stuff together. There are solutions who are providing some kind of scores. They are static. Usually these scores are just focused on one kind of protocol, one kind of oracles, for example. They're subjective, so the frameworks were built by the domain expertise of those people behind this startup. Even they are very smart, these scores are really good, but they are not capturing actually the informations of the whole ecosystem. And even worse, usually these scores are actually not updating themselves. Even these smart contracts are static by nature. They are operating in a dynamic environment, and they are not able to adjust to these sudden changes. And this led us actually to think actually how to address the problem, what could be the solutions, and what the space need for that. And that's basically what we came up. The first thing which has to be solved is creating transparency in this space. So the first one is like, do you understand the technical fundamentals of Aave, of Compound, and so on? We invented a term which we call Know Your Protocol. You can go to our dashboards and you see a very extensive picture of those protocols. You can learn from security up to liquidity, up to governance, what's happening, and these dashboards are updating themselves in real time. Besides that, we provide, I would say, like from my knowledge, what I saw in the space so far, the most advanced risk scoring and risk frameworks in the space. But our learning was also, even it doesn't matter how much domain expertise we have, we will not cover every single use case. And we went in a different approach to create a solution where everyone can build their customizable risk framework. They can build it to their use case. They can adjust it to their risk sensitivity. And even if they want, they can share it with the community or collaborate with others. A good example would be, for example, if we have a lending protocol and we want to build a very advanced risk framework, why should not be the case that someone, for example, from Security works together with Gauntlet, both of them bringing their domain expertise and bringing something into the space which is helping the whole community, the lending protocol, and both of them are actually able to be incentivized on top of that. And the last part is actually, even those frameworks are nice, they are actually mostly focused then on investment firms, but actually these kind of frameworks are also needed for protocols, and for protocols to be able to interact with those kind of informations, they have to trust actually the providers. That means that we have to decentralize our tech stack, and that's the whole picture what we are building. And to give you information how this actually looks like, you see my screen, that's our new website. By just starting here, we can see, for example, on Aave, we have the information starting from security, liquidity, social governance. Why did we choose these categories? The main reason was actually that we, through our internal analysis, identified that those were actually always the trigger effects for resetting events. It's always starting some kind of security issue, some kind of liquidation, governance, like someone with multi-sig, something stopped just a chain, for example, or there is a panic happening in the space. Even the hack is smaller than it should be, but because of the panic, everything is magnified. And that's basically what we are solving here. We are gathering data in real time around security from the smart contract, seeing basically the data according to the static analyzers, what they provide, but we have also informations from the auditors, which can be then later used in our modeling. So you'll see all the issues here. What was the recommendation on that side? We have the information around the markets, lending markets, what is the health factor, how everything is evolving. We are monitoring the major channels, as for now, Discord and Reddit, but this is of course going to be extended. And we are checking the governance, in this case, analyzing the basically how the governance is working, how the tokenomics is set up, and who are the major token holders and what is the analytics behind them. Those informations can be, of course, used also for research. You can go and try to understand the differences between, for example, Aave and Compound, very similar projects. On a various matrices in a very simple case, just in this case, I want to see the difference between Aave and Compound, and then you can ask yourself questions why the number of contributors is so different between Aave and Compound, even they are very similar projects. But the main product and everything what we built up was these risk frameworks, and we wanted to make it as easy as possible. We wanted to enable everyone with as little as possible domain expertise to be able to build that, but to profit from the community on top of our platform, and even to customize with or collaborate with someone else to build something which we don't even address and doesn't have to be connected to risk. And how does it work? A very simple case. I create now here a risk framework. Let's call it Risk Summit Risk Framework. I will build this risk framework, let's say, combining lending and DEXs together. Just clicking here, creating two formulas. Let's call this lending model, and let's call this DEX model. I just have to select the chains I want to work with. In this case, I can combine more than one. In this, like we covered so far, most of the blue chips on Ethereum side. Let's take for the lending, for example, just Aave and Compound to make it simple. And let's take for the DEXs Uni and Curve. Then in the second step, you just have to build your equation, and it's very simple. So we have over 300 parameters. You will see all the parameters which are covering both of those protocols, or every single protocol you selected. In this case, you can combine, let's say, ratio participation and let's say divide it by Gini coefficient, and do it every 4 hours and save it. That's it. No complications. And you can then use this information backtest and do analytics on top of that side. And the second formula, let's do a combination of daily users and multiply it out of some reasons you are aware of with the Reddit score. And let's do that daily. save, and then you have a second formula. And then you can go in a direction and say, okay, now I have a model which I built for landings, I have a model which I built for indexes. Let's build something out of it, something unique to my use case. My smart contract can use that in a very specific case. In this case, I can just select landing, divide, for example, by dexes, save, and that's it. The model is ready. I can make it even more user-friendly. So, for example, I don't want to have these percentages no one understands. I want to create A, B, C, D ratings. I just click here, create a A rating, define something like a range 0 to 34%. Let's call this B. And let's create a third one. Let's call it C. Save. That's it. We have a tier. We can do that for the second equation, but I will not waste too much time on that side. And lastly, I can decide, okay, I want to share it actually with the community. I believe this is something which everyone should actually profit from. I don't want to hold it for myself. Click save, and that's it. The risk framework is deployed. You get the API access. You can use it actually in real time on the way how you set up your time. Everything is working. And even more interestingly, as you put it actually on the marketplace, it's already here. So you see all the risk frameworks on the marketplace. You see the most popular ones. And then, of course, you can decide, do you want to subscribe to them or not? As these ones are the one I build, of course, I cannot subscribe to my own ones. That's by default. But I can subscribe to some other ones, which I believe could be cool. And here, for example, I can check the information around this risk framework. I check in information about the author to see how much domain expertise he has, what kind of stuff did he build before, how much can I trust to him, and so on. So basically, the possibilities are endless here. And lastly, this is like preparation for putting liquidity into the space. Of course, we have to think also after the post trade. So basically, you put the liquidity. How do you monitor? How do you deal with that? And that's the second part of our solution is the real-time monitoring. And we build advanced solutions on liquidity side. And we have advanced solution security side, working with the smartest and best companies in the space, which many of them are here, to enable our customer in a very simple case, very few clicks, that he gets subscriptions, alerts, constantly coming. If he wants to have these alerts per Discord, per Slack, or he wants to integrate that in his infrastructure per webhooks. Simple case, I will not go too much in details here. You see various options here. Let's take simple moving average. I believe everyone understands that. Just filling the factors here, and the subscription starts immediately. You will get 50 alerts and so on. I will not activate that as for now. And that's it. So basically, from here on, we enable everyone to build statistical models, but we will not stop here. This is just the first step. From here on, we are now going to enable more advanced modeling, like running machine learning models, deep learning models, and so on, enabling like really deep collaboration, and providing all this information per API access, in this case centralized. And from here on, we are now moving in the second step, decentralizing the tech stack, that also projects like Aave, Euler, or Uni can build their own risk framework where the infrastructure is decentralized according to their wishes, and basically making them smarter and more adaptive to the changes happening in the space. That would be, in essence, for myself. Thank you, and yeah, am I on time? Yes?